Facebook pulled up? Or you have it on your phone?
I'm watching the second counter on my phone.
Okay.
I'm assuming when your computer turns 4 is when this will pick up that it's 4, or is it on its 7 o'clock? Oh, for goodness sake.
Do we have a name for this?
Um,
All Access.
yeah.
All Access, that's right.
There's a question over here that I can stick
Yeah, on the Boxcast one?
oh, that's
Yeah.
scheduled to start in 1 minute. The stream is 90% prepared.
Okay, so as soon as the stream's prepared, there's going to be a delay on, there's about a 40-second delay, so I would say when this goes live to pin. So watching it for the first cue.
Okay.
Less than a minute, it says.
Good afternoon and welcome to the second edition of All Access. This is Mike Holmes, Athletic Director of Franciscan University. This is our opportunity to discuss a little bit where you can ask some questions about what's going on in the athletic department here. And I'll try to give the best answers we can and what I know at the given time. Just a little update on some things. Maybe in the background you can see some of the new banners that are hanging on the wall of Finnegan Fieldhouse. We took down some of the old paper championship banners and redid those with a nice, like a heavy vinyl. Those will be up for a while. It gives us a little more uniform look in there, and those just came in and got hung up pretty recently. So next time you're in the field house, you can kind of take a look at those, and we're really the only thing we're missing there is some good championships to put on those, and we'll be looking forward to having those in the next few years. So come by and check that out. We also are right into spring now, and some of our teams have already started, and others are getting started just around the corner. Men's lacrosse, it's one game under their belt there at Hiram tomorrow. Rugby is preparing for a couple of things. They're going to be taking a trip to Ireland over the break, and then they have a regional competition in Elkhart, Indiana on April 8th, where they're looking, I think, to qualify for the National Final Four. Men's tennis is underway. They'll be next in competition over spring break at the United States Tennis Association National Center. Next event for them will be on March 12th. Our track teams are running some indoor events for the first time this year, running 3 indoor events just kind of as an experiment, looking maybe to go to a full indoor season next year. Their next event is March 10th at Kent State. Women's lacrosse is also underway. They have a win under their belt. Their next game is actually home against Hilbert. That's all the way to March 23rd. So they have a little bit of a break, but then they'll be playing at home. And in softball, if our weather holds up, we'll be opening with Oberlin Friday at 3 o'clock in a doubleheader right here on our campus. So let's say a prayer that the weather will hold off and softball will be able to get underway on Friday. So that's a little bit of the quick updates. I do not know what Mary has in store for me back there, so let's take a look at the questions. Remember that you can send any questions that you have in our next 20 minutes to a half hour here. We'll try to get to as many of those as we can. The first question I see is, can you talk about highlights from the winter teams? So our men's basketball team was kind of in the hunt for a playoff position in the conference tournament this year. They did fall short, losing in our last week here in a home game on a Wednesday. But I think men's basketball is taking some steps in the right direction. They had a good, robust roster this year. We play a lot of the young guys. Our post players are very young and big, strong, and came along quite a ways. And so we got quite a few guys on the floor this year. And I think, from what I know, talking with Coach Wallace, he's out on the recruiting trail and trying to fill in spots. He'll lose with some senior guards and just try to take the next step there. So they were pretty close. Women's basketball had some numbers difficulties this year. Coach Delaney also is talking to quite a few gals, try to increase the roster sizes there. They got their win up at Uville in a game where they showed a lot of competitiveness, even though they hadn't had a win late in the season. Our girls kept grinding hard and playing despite not having a real deep rotation. And swimming just came off of the AMCC meet, and we had two gals do relatively well there, and we had two all-conference positions that came out of that. So again, really across the board for our winter sports, the theme is the same. We need to get a few more decent-sized roster positions filled there, just so we can have some good competition and practice, or in the case of swimming, have all of our events filled, and then we'll be kind of on the rise in those particular sports. But the coaches are pretty energetic and are out there trying to work hard to make the improvements. Next question from the CSAC Assistant Commissioner. We thank you for being in the CSAC for track and field. How do the teams look this year? Okay, so we have affiliate memberships in track and also in lacrosse coming up next year. And we really we appreciate our relationship with CSAC. Our track team, our men's team, is actually looking pretty strong, especially in distance areas. And we have good numbers for men's track. Women's track numbers are a little down this year, and again, back to our theme, we're just really encouraging our coaches to continue to hit the pavement and continue to build our rosters as we go along. But I think we can make a little bit of a splash, especially on the men's side in track, and we have some women that I think will do pretty well in particular events. I think we're a little short there in overall depth, but we'll see what happens. I think the indoor meets have been good for our kids, just to try to get them competitive here a little bit earlier than they normally would be as we get ready for our full outdoor track season. So thank you for the question. Thank you, CSAC, for your continued support of our affiliate membership in track. Do I have a vision for student fan section? Well, actually, I got to say, this was really not my idea, although I hope that I made the door open for it. We started a pep band this particular year, but this was more of one of our freshmen kind of taking this by the horns and really promoting this, and going through Pete Rosowski, who was our game day coordinator, who then came to me, and I really, in my head, when he was kind of talking about it, I kind of had this little 5-member band pictured. Okay, that'll be kind of a nice little novelty item, but it really kind of grew, and we put them down there on the end on the visitor. We want to put them by the visitors so that it'd be loud during timeouts for the visitors. But I was really impressed. If you got to a basketball game and saw them perform, I thought they did a really good job, and it's nice that our leadership there came from the freshman class. So I think we can expect to have some good, vibrant home games in basketball for the next 4 years. And I'm always really, to expand on that question, always thinking about ways that we can engage our student body. I just had really this conversation with one of our student athletes yesterday. And that's, part of the student athlete experience is having a lot of excitement at home games and feeling like you have the supportive student body. And so there's about 100 different ways that you slowly take steps to making that happen. And it's something that I never really lose sight of, and always continue to think of what we can do. In fact, the NCAA is making a big push on this as well, calling it the D3 Game Day Experience Initiative, and so it really has all of the ADs thinking about how we can make those events better for not only our student athletes, but the fans who come to support those teams. So other than, I don't really have concrete ideas other than some things that keep rattling around in my head with this work, with that work, and so we'll continue to think about those things as we prepare for our indoor events for next year. do I have any plans for more one-day intramural events? You know, that's, I'm honestly getting a little bit of a feel for the intramural culture here. It's pretty good culture, really. You know, we got ultimate frisbee, which people take real seriously here. I've seen them out practicing as much as some of our varsity teams. We have a lot of opportunity like futsal, and we've got flag football and basketball and volleyball, and so there's a lot of different opportunities. I'm kind of taking some of that in this year and really relying on Kelly Herman, who does our intramural coordinating to figure out what should be going where. But we also did a survey in the fall that indicated to us what those respondents wanted to see as far as intramural opportunities, and so going through that survey, I actually just wrote up the results of that survey, and we're getting some interest in some things that really are not traditional intramural programming, things like rock climbing. Now that we have a rock climbing wall in the cardiovascular room upstairs, that seems to have generated some interest there. We've had some interest in things as far-ranging as fencing and disc golf and all across the board. So my job is to kind of listen to that, find out where we have a big, strong pocket of interest, and then decide after kind of observing intramurals for this year what we can do, including your idea there for more one-day events. I have a changing gears. This is always dangerous. As a former coach, how have you helped and encouraged your coaches in recruiting? So, I had a former player who is taking some sports administration, and one of the questions that he asked me to answer for a project he was doing in his class was, what are the things that you need to think about as far as being an athletic director? And really, there are two types of athletic directors in college. There's small college athletic directors, there's large university athletic directors, and they really have two different kind of job descriptions. Here is one of the enjoyable things that I get to do. I have the coaching experience, and so with some of our younger coaches, really recruiting is just becoming a new facet to their job. And that might seem strange to people who don't know the history of Franciscan, but Franciscan has really been traditionally more admissions-driven recruiting, even for our student athletes, because of the different mission that we have. We have really a unique mission here. And in just this last year, admissions and athletics kind of got together and kind of came to a cooperative agreement about recruiting. So really some of our coaches are actually recruiting, some of them, for the first time. And that's an enjoyable part of what I get to do is the coaching, mentoring. Not that I have all the answers for sure, but I certainly have some experience. And so recruiting is one of those, it's an art form. Everybody has actually different things that they do well on the recruiting trail. I was always kind of I'm gonna be like your dad figure, where some maybe younger coaches can really talk to the kids and understand what Snapchat is, for example, which I never knew. And so that part's kind of a little bit of an art form, but really it all comes down to the same thing. It's hard work, it's organization, and it's being honest about the experience that an individual can expect when they come here. And in our particular case, having an idea that this is a really unique Catholic university in that we don't take Catholicism lightly here, and we don't take our faith formation lightly. There's an ongoing conversion here that even happens during the athletic season. Our coaches are responsible for that. They're the leaders in that, and so this is our job here in recruitment is to show that student athlete that here they can experience something they cannot get anywhere else and still be part of a varsity athletic team. Potential student athletes, what is the best way to get recruited? I think there's some different ideas. I'll tell you what I think. And that is, number one, I think if I'm a student athlete and I'm not getting the looks that I want to get, especially for a place, maybe I feel like Franciscan's a great mission fit for me, and that's where I want to go, but I'm not really getting the attention that I would like from the coaching staff. We do have a recruit me form. I'll be honest, that sometimes the vast number of responses we get there might not help you get singled out. So instead, what I would do is speak with your high school coach and have them make a contact with the college coach here. That always went a really long way with me, when I could talk to the high school coach about the individual. In basketball that I coached, I could also ask for film, and if you send film, I think any coach here would watch it, or just to be being recruited in general. Now, do recruiting sites work? I think that depends on which site it is. I believe this. I think that if your high school coach is at all involved with you, they will give you everything a recruiting site will give without the fee. That's not to say that I haven't ever used a recruiting site to recruit a player, because I have done that before, and I've gotten some good players from recruiting sites. So I think it's just weighing that field pretty carefully. I would ask, if I were going to use a recruiting site, level of success that they've had, if they can produce some numbers for you, give you some sample schools of where some of their clients have been recruited. But I would go back to what I said initially, and I think getting your high school coach involved, doing the recruit me form, even making contact with one of our coaches here. They're all on their website. Their emails are pretty easy to find. And I think I would reach out, and if you want to be recruited here, you will be, because our coaches, everybody will take a look at you, that's for sure. Who do you look up to in your profession? Any mentors? I think anybody who's involved in athletics has had some impactful coaches in their past, and I certainly have had that. I know that I've had some really good athletic directors, but until reasonably recently in my career, I really never planned to go this direction, so I more had some mentors in coaching, and those coaches that coached me, actually, believe it or not, one of my most significant mentors was my college tennis coach. His name was Dick Starr, back in Iowa, and I just liked the way that Coach Starr interacted with people, how he dealt with people. He certainly not afraid to let you know if you weren't performing, but that was very rare. Most of his thing was relationship based. I really liked the things that he did and taught me. It's really hard for me not to be influenced by a name not too many people will know, but a name, Morey John. My father played for Morey John. He was a basketball coach at Drake University, which is also in Iowa. Back in the 60s, my basketball coach in high school played for Coach John. And if you don't know, it's a kind of a fascinating story that Drake University has been to one Final Four. That was back in 1968, and Morey John was the head coach of that particular team. They played Lou Alcindor's UCLA team in the Final Four. I think they lost 96-93 in the semifinal. But Coach John kind of became a legend around Drake, and so really that's a fascinating story. I actually did my master's thesis on that. How did he, at such a unknown Division I school, manage to produce such a fine basketball product? And just talking to the people who were around him, I think was an influence on me as well. So those would be, I think, some of the mentoring that I've got, certainly from the coaching side. I think I've taken a little bit of all the good athletic directors I've had. I've taken some pieces from them in dealing with this particular job. So those have been pretty vast. I think my guys are writing out back there here, so we'll get this question down. Yeah, Barron Club, just a reminder on that while I'm waiting for this next question. Barron Club, April 21st, and doors open at 6 o'clock, Mary, 6 o'clock for the doors. Jim Leland's one of the featured speakers there, and so individual tickets are on sale this upcoming week. Is that right, Mary? So more on that in our next installment next month, but it's not too early to start thinking about Barron Club. And there's my question, as part of a D3 game day experience, what is your most memorable experience as a coach or a player? I think coaching is easy because it's in my head. And you would have to know Maine geography a little bit. I was part of an independent Division III. So being an independent in Division III is a tough road because you're trying to schedule other teams who have conference schedules already built in, and so playing all sorts of weird times and places and on the road more than you're at home. And we were up in northern Maine, so we were traveling quite a bit. And so we were just looking for credibility. And I think Joe Wallace and I have talked about this. Obviously, you try to get big wins along the way somewhere to add credibility to your program, and that's where we were. And we were in the third year, and certainly one of the most prestigious schools in Maine, if you're not familiar with their area, is Colby College, who's part of a conference up there called the NESCAC, New England Small College Athletic Conference, or whatever. Yeah, but every school in the NESCAC is an impressive school. They're just prestigious, and so we had a chance at home to play Colby, and our guys just played really well. We won a really tight game, and it got us some recognition. So just in basketball, being part of that type of experience where every basket, the gym kind of explodes and gets loud, you can't hear what's going on. There's just high-pitched screeching in the background. That's a really cool environment. So that's the one that really stands out in coaching. Is then you win a game like that, your players act like little boys in the locker room, and it's a really neat thing to be a part of. As a D3 player, you're asking me. I remember quite a long time ago. I did have the opportunity to play both basketball and tennis, and I think here's what I tell kids: you tend to, as you get away from that for a while, you remember more of the relationships that you had with teammates. And I can remember a lot of experience about a bus ride or taking this trip, but I don't remember tons about the games or the matches in tennis. But I do remember the overall experience, and that Division III is, I've said this before, it's really where it's at. Here you get a chance to be an athlete, you get a chance to develop your faith, you get a chance to compete at a really high level, but you also get days off during the week, and you also are encouraged that the classroom's the most important thing. It's more important than your volleyball game or your softball game is coming up. And so I think that the D3 experience is really what it's about, and I would not have done it really any other way. Transition from coaching to being AD, how are you coping with that? It's the biggest, I won't say it's difficult, I will call it an obstacle. The biggest obstacle that I've had in my head is whether you're teaching, and I have taught it in higher ed, or coaching, you have this instant relationship with this group of people. It might be your students, it might be your players. In basketball coaching, you also have that relationship with the women's players because you're traveling together, or you're watching their games and they're watching your games. And so that relationship is really what can be special about the coach-athlete relationship, and I've had that for many years, and I've missed that. I'll indicate that and be truthful about it. I've missed that quite a bit. I probably have players that wish I was not an AD, because I kind of find myself reaching back out to some of my former players and trying to stay in touch because of that. But here, there's still that opportunity a little bit. It's just a little harder. So I try to obviously get out and see as many games as I can. I have conversations with the players, and those are really the highlights of the day. When you have a conversation with a Franciscan student athlete, you're dealing with the best of the best, and it's just a privilege to be able to speak with them. But that's the toughest part of the transition. Is it's just a different dynamic. Getting called Mr. instead of Coach was really weird for quite some time. I've been called Coach for 28 years, and so that's been maybe one of the most difficult parts of the transition. But that's an interesting question, and very good. So thank you for watching today. I think we've come to the end of our time here pretty quickly. We appreciate everyone who sent in questions and who tuned in. Hope that you're finding that the format is kind of an interesting way to keep up with some Barron athletics. As always, you can always email me or give me a call in between these. But our next one will be April 3rd. That'll be the first Tuesday of April. And we'll talk about all things Barron Club, and we'll be in full swing on our sports by that time for the spring. And we'll be hoping to give you some really positive updates for that. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next month. Clear? Okay.
Quite a few people, some of those